chasing after him in the Gecko, running at the back of the Class B field. It was tough going for the Quad Brigade. These motorized bucking Broncos are not the easiest machines in the world to ride and require a combination of superb fitness, strength and concentration. Competitors were looking forward to a few minutes respite at the refuel point where, as always, there was plenty of activity. For those lucky enough to avoid mechanical maladies, the refuel point is more often than not a whistle stop. For others, there is some hard work to be done. Right into this category fell Marius Bourain, who was having to do running repairs on the Mighty Mag's front suspension. In the spirit of off-road racing, there were willing helpers from other teams. There were no major problems for the Birkin brothers in their turbo-diesel Toyota Hilux, who were locked into battle with Niels Lemmer and Dries de Klerk. The Birkins set out to do battle once more, with the two crews never separated by more than a minute or two. There were one or two minor running repairs for Witham Lloyd and Van der Walt, who were having a good run. The pair were eyeing a possible top 10 slot in the race code, but there were problems for quad leader Wickes van Deventer, who arrived at the refuel with a punctured left tyre. There were also problems for Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne in the Motortech Gymco.
Oh, we missed the turning and we fell into a small little dam and the car was lodged. Water was above our shoulders. And unfortunately we couldn't get it out. Eventually we had to get a tractor with a crane on the back to lift it out. And the car is, there's water everywhere, so I'm loath to carry on racing because I'll be damaging the engine and the gearbox.
Despite his problems, Wickes van Deventer was in cheerful mood.
Wickes, baie werk weer vandag.
Ja, nee, sta jy. Nee, ek het van die tweede refuel met 'n papwiel gery. Ek sal kyk of kan ek vir Chris toe vang. Nee, is maar sta, is baie rof. Dit is vreeslik moeilik om voor te ry met die lang gras. Jy weet nie wat lê voor vir jou en wag nie. Ouens kyk net alles wanneer jy die foute maak, dan kan hulle dit uitbyt. Maar ek sal hom nou vang. Ek hoop so.
Van Deventer was not the only quad rider suffering from puncture maladies. Paul Breckel brought the Phillips Rotax into the refuel, also with a flat left rear tyre, and after a bright start to the race, was slipping down the field with his helpers, faced with a few minutes of frantic work. Also slipping down the field were former champions Bux Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer in the lubrication equipment race go in the special vehicle category.
Kenny, you guys seem to have lost a lot of time.
We've had a few problems with the gearbox, man. The automatic transmission is losing fluid. But otherwise it's fun. It's rough.
There were no prizes for guessing who was leading the motorcycle category, with Alfie Cox well in command. While Cox set off to do battle once again, the Barker Hubert Land Rover needed attention. It was still raging, with Niels Lemmer and Dries de Klerk chasing the Birkin brothers in Class E. Motorcycle leader Alfie Cox found himself caught up in the battle of the Toyota Hilux buckies and was forced to eat a little dust until he found a way around the Toyota. Mounted on the AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM, the Italian was again stamping his authority on a national championship off-road race. Behind him, teammate Alex Vowles on the Antelix Dairy KTM was holding on to second, only to run into problems with punctures, which cost him 20 positions at the end of the day. At the front of the quad field, there was a turn-up for the books. With Wickes van Deventer running into his puncture problems, Christo van der Merwe had taken over the lead on the Johannesburg Yamaha Banshee. Van der Merwe was starting to build up a commanding lead, with a maiden national championship win now firmly in his grasp. Graham McLaughlin was having a good first race on the Shell Yamaha and was third on the road and second in the 250 class. McLaughlin was having to look over his shoulder with Gary Peterson on a charge, with Wickes van Deventer doing all he could to cut into the lead that Van der Merwe had built up since the refuel. Van Deventer was throwing caution to the winds on the Jojo Tank's Yamaha Banshee, but he wasn't making much of an impression on Van der Merwe, who had the bit between his teeth. Gary Peterson was another who had the bit between his teeth. After a disappointing time trial where he could only manage 13th place on the Brasco Kawasaki, the motocross Springbok was on a charge and had his sights set on catching McLaughlin and Vowles. Ever the showman, Peterson was cutting into McLaughlin's lead and pulling away from Errol Dalton on the Shell Honda. Dalton was 5th on the road and 2nd to Cox in the 500 class. While Dalton was going along steadily enough, Alan Julian on another of the Shell Hondas had lost ground after starting the day in 3rd place. With early 200 class leader Rian van Niekerk running into problems on the AGA Panasonic KTM, the steady Clayton Ensslin had moved into the lead on the FMF Racing Kawasaki and had a sizable lead over Wayne Farmer on the Shell Honda. Behind Ensslin there was a steady ride from Elmer Simons on another of Shell Honda entries, with Simons on the fringes of a possible top 5 placing. In an impressive performance, privateer Marco Cavina had moved into 3rd place in the 500 class on a KTM and was looking at a possible top 10 finish ahead of some of the more fancied riders. Veteran Richard Manning, a multiple former off-road and national enduro champion, was also soldiering along on the Shell Yamaha and also looked to be assured of a top 10 place. Matters looked to be clear-cut for Alfie Cox and Christo van der Merwe in the motorcycle and quad categories, and the same pattern was emerging at the front of the car field. First on the road by a healthy margin and leading the special vehicle category were Frans Čepek Senior and Junior in the V Motors race code. With Frans Senior handing over the driving duties to Frans Junior over the latter part of the race, the pair had opened up a sizable lead over John Lambert and Hendrik Fourie in the Digidor, who were trailing the Čepeks by around 20 minutes. In a terrific performance, reigning production vehicle champions Api Reineke and Robin Houghton had worked their way to 3rd on the road in the Toyota Land Cruiser. The production vehicle win looked to be in the bag, but behind them they had former special vehicle champion Greg Harvey and Brian Stone in the Queen Motorspares Raceco, who had moved into 3rd place in the special vehicle category. The Harvey Stone car wasn't a threat to Reineke and Houghton, where overall honours in the production vehicle class were concerned, but a late charge from Cassie Kutsia and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux was putting the Land Cruiser under a little pressure. A fired-up Kutsia and Leek were rapidly eating into the Reineke-Houghton lead. The steady as ever Richard Carolyn in the single-seater lubrication equipment Raceco was on his way to 6th overall and 3rd in Class A. There is nothing fancy or flamboyant to Carolyn's approach to off-road racing, but he gets results. Another veteran off-roader to come up with an impressive performance in another single-seater Raceco was former champion Wilfred Weslau from Lesotho. After a long break from racing, Weslau was assured of a top 10 finish and 4th in class. In another family affair, Nick and Ryan Harper in the Pro-M Raceco were assured of a good finish in Class A in the special vehicle category. The pair had a steady run, but the terrific battle that had raged throughout the event in Class E in the production vehicle category eventually saw the Birkin brothers in their Toyota Hilux Turbo Diesel edge ahead of Niels Lemmer and Dries de Klerk. Witham Lloyd and Van der Walt also had a steady run, putting in a determined bid over the closing stages to get the Lloyd's Racing Raceco into the top 10 overall. After their early trials and tribulations when they were pulled out of the mud by the Birkin brothers, Colin and Derek Frankenberg recovered well in the TSW Racing Forsdix Range Rover. It was hard work in the big Range Rover, but the pair had managed to move into 3rd place behind Reineke Houghton and Kutsia Leek in Class D in the production vehicle category. They had a sizable lead over Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert in their Land Rover Defender, with Barker and Joubert putting in a charge over the latter stages to try and catch the field. The pair also had to eradicate a 1-hour penalty imposed by race officials for missing the time trial the previous day due to technical problems. The Frankenbergs finished more than an hour and a half behind overall winners Frans Čepek Senior and Junior, but with only 19 classified finishes out of 34 starters, the Queen Motorspares 400 had provided a tough opening to this year's national championship. So, a flying start to the season for reigning National Special Vehicle champions Frans Čepek Senior and Junior, with overall victory in the Queen Motorspares 400.
Really a great way to start the season. We've achieved what we wanted to achieve. We won the championship last year and we won the first race of the season, which is very nice. And this year we've got a complete new runner, my son, who's been co-driving me for the last couple of years, faithfully and patiently. I gave him the second leg of the race today and he kept up the good work and we came in first.
What was the terrain like out there?
Terrain was very good, nice and rough, a nice variety, fast roads, a lot of rough rocks and things. Nice new experience to be in the driving seat. It was good fun.
And it was that man Alfie Cox once again in the motorcycle category, with class wins for Cox, Gary Peterson and Clayton Ensland.
I'm very happy with the first win. You know, the way to start the season off makes you feel good. That if you've been training hard or you haven't been training hard, has it been worth it? And it's been very good.
A Toyota clean sweep in the production vehicle category, with reigning champions Api Reineke and Robin Houghton edging out factory teammates Cassie Kutsie and Richard Leek.
Die route op zichzelf is heeltemal 'n nuwe byeenkoms hierdie. Baie lekker route. Dit is soortgelyk aan die dak van Afrika. Die dele wat rof is baie rof en dan die dele wat mooi paaie het is lekker vinnige paaie. En ons het dit baie geniet.
A shock result in the quad category, with Christopher van der Merwe handing Vickers van Deventer a rare defeat, with Yamaha the dominant force.
Ek het geen probleme gehad behalwe my radiator wat weggewaai het waarvoor ek moes stop nie. En natuurlik 'n papwiel aan die voorkant.